like to call the meeting to order. Please do the Pledge of Allegiance and have a moment of silence. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, James, do you want to do roll call, please?
Thank you. Bailey.
Is he absent?
Dolan.
Present.
Helmuth.
Was that Helmut? Yes.
Yes. Kenneth.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes. Approval of the agenda.
I will make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Dolan, supported by Helmut. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Presentations, we have none. Public hearing, we have none. Call to the public on non-agenda items. Consent agenda. A, receive and file items.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A as presented, to receive and file.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Helmut, supported by Kenneth. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. And 8B, approval items. James, did you want to?
Yes, please. With regard to the minutes, I provided proposed revised set in your space in front of you. Starting with the July 11th meeting, I will note 2 changes that were made at the consent of the recording secretary for your consideration, as these be the ones to be approved. If you would like further changes, please speak so, and we will record it, and that message will be delivered to the recording secretary. The 2 changes were were on the first page and were with regard to call to public comment non-agenda items. The word in that first sentence regarding the gentleman that was speaking on the water, the characterization of his comments were changed from questions to the word objections in the first sentence. The very last sentence of that same section, where the gentleman came to the podium to warn, is the word that was used, as opposed to caution. Those were words that the recording secretary believed accurately represented the concerns of those residents. I would be happy to take any other comments or questions regarding the July 11th when I conclude. With regard to the July 18th minutes, I appreciate a request that I received from Councilmember Dolan regarding a missed motion. That is also on your first page, and it was with regard to the motion to excuse the absence of Bailey. It is now recorded in the July 18th meeting minutes, with the yeses, no, and absent with it. I would be happy to take comments regarding the set of minutes or have them before you for consideration.
Would you like corrections on the gentlemen's names?
If we have them, I would be happy to take them.
The call to public, the first gentleman was Gary Ledger, Ledger, from Lakes Edge Drive. And the second gentleman was Lou Sarah, also from Lakes Edge Drive.
Thank you.
And that's SERA.
S-E-R, got it. Thank you.
If no one has any questions, I'll make a motion to approve the regular minutes from July 11, 2017 as amended, and the minutes from the special meeting on July 18th as amended.
Support?
Okay, we have the motion for approval of minutes by Helmut, supported by Dolan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I also make a motion to approve consent agenda items B, including the bills in the amount of $86,275.29.
And I will support as well.
Okay, we have a motion by Helmut, supported by Dolan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Unfinished business. Interview for candidates for the interim manager position. We have Rob Anderson.
If I may briefly, Madam President.
Please.
Before you at your council space, you have two sets of recommended or proposed questions, optional questions for the candidates. You also have in your space additional information provided by the candidate after the packet went out, but we wanted to present it to you before or as part of this meeting at that candidate's request. Those are the only notes I'd like to make. I will turn it back to Council President to introduce the first candidate for interview.
Rob, you want to go up to the podium there? Okay. I guess you want to start by introducing yourself and tell them a little bit about yourself.
Certainly. My name is Rob Anderson. I have 3 children that live in the Detroit metro area. They're all college kids at this time. One's studying law, one's studying engineering, the other is in community college in IT. I myself didn't begin college until I was 29 years old. I have very much so an unusual career path. When I got out of high school, either one of my parents had a college education. My mother was an X-ray technician. My father was a printer, among many other things he had done. So I got out of high school and went to work. I worked construction for a number of years, which leads me to I'm also a licensed residential builder. I've traveled a bit. I've lived in California twice, Alaska. I was a commercial fisherman in Alaska. The summer I turned 25. I've ever seen The Deadliest Catch. I did that for a living. Shortly thereafter, I decided it would be a good idea to go to college. I've always liked school, so I attended Santa Rosa Junior College when I was a stonemason in the Napa Valley, actually. Subsequent to that, I moved back to Michigan, studied at Grand Valley State when I discovered that there was a career path called public administration / urban planning. And as I looked at the curriculum and the various courses, I just thought, that's me. I'm fortunate it took me 29 years to figure that out, but it was really something that I really gravitated towards. Even when I was in high school, as president of Arveo High School, a school of 2,600 kids, when I was young, I was on curriculum committees with the administration, et cetera, et cetera. So I've always really been engaged in public affairs, but not really officially so until I attended Grand Valley. Later, University of Michigan. My bachelor's degree is from the University of Michigan. As I said, I'm the first one in my family to achieve a diploma. And then my master's degree is from the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University.
Rob, can you speak up a little bit?
Sure.
Because we're having a hard time.
Okay. Okay, this mic's not working? Okay.
It doesn't, it records, but it doesn't
Projected.
project your voice.
Okay.
Right.
And that's not plugged in.
That's not plugged in. You know what, I can just raise my voice as well. I didn't want to, blow out the mic here, but is that a little better? Okay, good. Yeah. Funny, plugging it in. So that's my general background. I've worked in a number of different cities throughout the United States. I'm originally from Saginaw, Michigan. I have a home in Bay City. I've lived in Bay City. I've had this home in Bay City for 15 years. The lion's share of my work has been in community economic development. I've created the business model or the organizational model of development services in 3 different cities, Rio Rancho, New Mexico, Fayetteville, North Carolina, and Bay City, Michigan. But my most recent assignment was city manager of New Buffalo, Michigan, over on the West Coast. It's 65 miles from downtown Chicago. I was really trying to stay in Michigan. After having been in other states a number of times, my goal has been to stay in Michigan. It's where my family is, where my children are, my friends. This is where my heart is in the state of Michigan. So the position in New Buffalo was appealing to me because they needed a new master plan. They were trying to develop a new master plan. And the main street leading down to the beach looked like it was sort of from the 60s or early 70s. A lot of empty storefronts. And the community had aspired, I'm told, for about 30 years to try and redevelop the downtown. So I took on the assignment there. It was a 2-year contract. And my team and I accomplished some amazing things in that 2 years. We had phase 1 of the redevelopment out to bid by the time I left. It was funded, phase 1 and 2 were funded, and we actually funded about $4 million in local streets resurfacing, along with the infrastructure underneath those streets by my departure as well. Those were things that had been deferred for a very long time. And I'm a person to really just step in and make things happen. So with that, I'd be glad to entertain any questions you may have.
Mr. Anderson, I appreciate you taking the time today to visit our community and interview for this position. Could you briefly articulate to me what your understanding of this position is?
Well, temporary, certainly. I don't think it's really been defined, the extent of this. I think it's probably a function of finding your permanent village manager, of course. So I think in the interim period, there are things that just have to be done to keep the wheels turning. So in the discussion that I had earlier, there were a number of items that came up. Some concerns. The DDA is without leadership at this point in time. I've done a lot of economic development work, served with DDAs, and numerous other brownfield boards, et cetera, throughout my career. Some of the other items were, just sort of an evaluation of operations and the capacity of the organization is something that we discussed. I really embrace doing those things. I really enjoy that kind of stuff. I consider myself a capacity builder and a good communicator. So to me, it begins with listening. I probably want to interview each one of you to see what your goals and aspirations are, what you think is missing, where we need to go. I would want to meet with the staff to do the very same thing, make myself available to the public. There'd be a lot of outreach to the business community, et cetera, et cetera. So anytime you take over a department, whether it's or a community at this level, whether it's on a temporary basis or permanent, there's a lot of communication that has to take place, a lot of learning to be done.
Thank you.
Sure.
Further to Eric's question, are you looking at this as only a temporary position, or would you consider long-term? What are your aspirations?
Well, I think it's a great opportunity for both of us. When I saw this position posted, I looked at the pay range and I thought, I don't know if that I really want to move for that range of pay. But one of the things that's really important about trying to hire a city manager, a village manager, or whatever, even major department heads, is you have such a little information about each other. That's why I supplemented my materials with, you have the resume, but I didn't provide a cover letter. And a resume without a cover letter is pretty bleak. It's like a bullet list of stuff. So I yesterday prepared something to send to you. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it, but I think that there's something missing there. So this could be something that, if it grows into the kind of relationship that I hope it might, then I would certainly consider a long-term position if the community thinks that I'm actually a good fit for the community. So we have an opportunity to learn about each other and go from there.
Rob, we believe that our financial operations are in dire need of attention.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of expand on what you've done with budget, financial planning, general ledger,
Yes.
AP, all of that stuff?
Let me be very clear right up front. I have never been the person to make entries in the general ledger or journal entries, okay? I've always been, when I was with the city of Detroit, I had 156 people and a $225 million budget. There was no way I was going to be, but actually, I worked very closely with the finance team because when I came on board there, the prevailing thought was that the city had somewhere around $30 million of excess federal funds. And I worked with, I spent about 16 months working with a team that I put together from both the mayor's office and the city council office and CPAs to evaluate our CDBG portfolio. And by the time we were through, we realized that we were $57 million overcommitted. So after studying this, I was able to go to the city council and ask them to remove, I think it was about 1,200 line items in our budget, because, I mean, they just had no sense of where they were. So I have no hesitation to do the deep dive on evaluations, but I think you would be better served to have an account clerk, some pure finance person that would cost less than myself, and I addressed that in the letter. That I apologize I didn't get it to you sooner. Someone that on a daily basis manages those kinds of things. And I have a bit of a concern from the separation of duties that, you know, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, their perspective is, and I gave you a citation from that, is that there should be separation of duties with finance. So if I'm approving payments that are coming through, if I'm approving invoices and things that are flowing through, I should not be the one that are making the general ledger entries. I should not be the one that's preparing the checks. There really should be a separation of duties. So am I the one to make those entries? No. Am I the one to ask the tough questions and work with the professionals that do those things? Absolutely.
Have you ever put together a budget?
Absolutely.
Managed a budget?
Yes.
Right from square one?
Yep, every place I've been.
Are you able to simplify a budget?
If a budget is suited for simplification, certainly.
You might have found one here.
Mr. Anderson, taking into consideration that this is, at least at the beginning, a short-term commitment with potential for a longer assessment, do you believe, more concisely, you have the ability to manage the ledger finances of this village from day one?
To do the entries?
While collaboration obviously is what ultimately is going to determine an individual's success or failure.
Right.
As you probably understand, we're going through transition right now.
Yes.
And essentially the responsibilities are going to be 100% yours.
Okay.
Are you that person?
Absolutely, because there are other staff members that I would be working with. And I would put a bookkeeping person or an account clerk or something into that category. It would save you money over my hours of trying to learn BS&A. It would be much more efficient. It would be more accuracy. One mistake in your financial accounting can cost you an enormous amount of time to correct it. So to manage the person that's doing that and collaborate with them and design the systems, et cetera, absolutely. It's the same thing. You know, I'd be 100% accountable for what happens in the police department, the fire department, DPW, or whatever, but I'm not alone in this. My understanding is that there's a number of people on this team that are, you know, long-term professionals, and that's what I look forward to, is collaborating with a team like that. So my personal style is I don't come in and start rearranging furniture and everything. You've got to learn first. You've got to listen first. And if I have to be someone's boss, then we got a problem. My goal and my management style is to be a resource for the team. And sometimes, you know, sometimes you got to lead, sometimes you've got to listen, and sometimes you got to basically tell it like it is. And I'm capable of that full range.
I unfortunately had all my questions answered last time. I'm not good at repeating them. Sorry.
Yeah, same here. Everyone should know that Sue and Mo and I already spent time with you for an hour or so.
Yeah, if I could clarify, I was invited for a Skype interview, and I live in Bay City. It's an hour and 20 minutes. And I was grateful that your colleagues agreed to meet with me personally. I wanted to come to the community. I wanted to meet face to face. I think you learn so much more when you do that about each other and about the community. So.
Mr. Anderson, taking collaboration outside of the equation, can you articulate to me your three most significant individual, and again, that is individual, not with collaboration, accomplishments in municipal government?
In Rio Rancho, New Mexico, I was hired to pull together diverse departments into a development services model. We were the fastest growing in the city in the Southwest. We were 100 square miles. We had D.R. Horton, Centex, and others that were in the community. They were building subdivisions, 700 to 800 homes at a time, and the community had no capacity to manage it. And the city manager that had taken over was someone that I had worked with in Bay City when I was a development services director there. So I pulled together a number of different departments in a collaborative effort under my leadership. And what we did was, it's twofold. One, I built the capacity for us to manage that kind of workflow. And two, I led a team that we basically entered into an effort. This is a high mesa city, high mesa desert city, 100 square miles. It was unplanned, unzoned. It was a free-for-all. So basically, I stepped in and led the team that designed a downtown. We built an arena. We built a city hall. We pulled together this blank slate location and pulled it together into a really good plan for the downtown to move the community forward. Like I said, we built an arena and we built a city hall, and that is now the urban core of the community. So that's one. Another one that I'm particularly fond of was when I was in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I was hired again to pull together the capacity. Well, actually, one of the things I did when I was in Rio Rancho, everything was moving so quickly. The engineering department, they just weren't geared for communicating with developers the way they needed to be communicated with. They weren't user-friendly for the business community. So the city council actually asked me to add engineering to my department, which I did. So then in Fayetteville, North Carolina, they were operating from a development code that was from the 1960s, and the community, frankly, looked like it. You couldn't do cool. The codes prevented you from doing interesting things and things that are really good for a community from a planning and development standpoint. So I was hired to develop a unified development ordinance. I went to the Home Builders Association, very powerful group in the community, and asked them to join us in this effort because there was a draft already in place of a sort of a national standard academic exercise draft, but it didn't really suit the community. What we needed to do was go through every element of that document and make sure that it really suited the community and the aspirations of the community. So I pulled together a team for that. The Home Builders Association, their first response was, excuse the expression, but hell no, we don't know you, we don't trust you, we don't trust anybody at City Hall, no way. And I said, well, I was hired to do this, and it would be a much better document if you would join us. And so through my leadership, they ultimately joined us. I led the team that we went through 16 months of a 320-page document, line by line. I committed to them at that moment. I said, I will go through every line of this document with anybody that's willing to do it with me. And we did. And a group of tree huggers and developers and engineers and financiers basically came together in the end and agreed on the outcome. It was one of the things that I'm most proud of in my career. Yes.
I don't mean to interject, but just briefly, the question involved outside of collaboration, and while those are significant accomplishments and I appreciate them, could you just simply provide 3 individual items without collaboration that you were most considering most accomplished on your own, individual items that you've achieved?
Well, here's a really simple example. When I was in Pontiac, Michigan, I had a Puerto Rican woman that was working at the front counter, and nobody liked working with her. She was a pain to work with. She was grumpy all the time. And when I take over a department, or in this case, a municipality, I sit down and learn from the staff what their aspirations are, et cetera. And I came to realize that this woman didn't care anything about the building community and just was stuck in a job that she wasn't happy with. And when I realized that there was a position over at the Housing Commission that called for someone that was bilingual, I put her in that position, right, through working with the mayor's office. She went into that position and she became just an absolute model employee. So I apologize that I'm at a bit of a loss because I don't know that I do many things without collaboration, without working with the team. It's a question I've never been asked before, and I guess I apologize. I'm a little unprepared, but
oh, no need to apologize.
I don't do things in isolation, and the best work is done in collaboration with others.
Thank you, sir.
we were to ask, or if I were to ask 3 acquaintances or friends of yours to describe you in 3 words, what would be the 3 best and then 3 not so best?
These would be acquaintances that like you.
Or not?
Smart, and I apologize if that's rude to say that, but I grew up with some really smart people. I was really fortunate. Integrity and hardworking. Industrious, so that makes it 3 words.
What about not so less, not so great traits?
Probably that, I don't know if I could do it in 3
Or you
words.
describe yourself.
Yeah, I think some of my downfall is that I feel I can accomplish anything if I just work hard enough. My dad always told me that when I was a kid, you can do anything if you're willing to work hard enough. And sometimes you just can't. Sometimes there are just so many obstacles. Maybe you can make some progress. There have been occasions where I was probably unrealistic about my ability to achieve certain things. One of those was in New Buffalo, Michigan. It's such a contentious community. I was the 5th city manager in 7 years there. There were 2 recall elections in the 2 years that I was there. And I was convinced that I could bring enough integrity and communication and just sheer professionalism to turn that community around. And it just didn't happen. I mean, there's just a group of people that are just committed to dysfunction, and I couldn't overcome that. But I believe that I could. But we did overcome most of it in the fact that we were able to achieve things on behalf of the community that they had tried to do for a long time. So I couldn't change the culture, but we accomplished really great things, my team did, within that culture.
Okay, which leads me to my next question. Are there any events in your professional life that may reflect negatively upon your performance, which would be awkward or embarrassing for us if it was reported in the news media? If we were to Google you?
Google me. The worst thing you're going to find is a battle with the Planning Commission in New Buffalo. We had the most dysfunctional Planning Commission I've ever seen anywhere. And I should apologize for speaking, badly of the community I just came from, and that's the nature of the question. In any event, that Planning Commission was so disruptive. There was a period we went about 2.5 months where they couldn't conduct business. They would meet, they couldn't get past approving the agenda. We were, at one point, we were like 9 meetings, including special meetings, behind on trying to approve minutes. And meanwhile, we're trying to do a new master plan and process the redevelopment of the downtown through the Planning Commission. So if you Google that, there's someone, the New Buffalo blog, there's a person there that is just committed to her world, her version of the world. And that's why I gave you, call City Hall. If you look at that blog, you're going to go, wow, this guy's not so good. But then you keep looking at the blog and you realize that she just rips into everyone. And I gave you the phone numbers of City Hall, the 2 local newspapers, and I would encourage you to check with them and validate whether or not I was a good thing for the community, whether I built a strong team and fostered good things, good outcomes in the community. But that's the only thing you're going to really see.
And when I was looking at your resume, most of your background, other than the New Buffalo thing, is all in development, planning, zoning, and that's...
Real estate, sure, all those things. And from my perspective, part of the reason I like that arena, I love to create, I like to build organizations, I like to build community. But one of the really most important things about that range of functions is that that's where you interface with the community. All of those things are the things that the community cares about, whether it's code enforcement, real estate development, planning, all of those things, the use of federal funds, that's what the community is concerned with. So I consider myself really strong in the area of engaging with the community, interacting with the community, listening to the community, and delivering what the priorities of the community are. And these are not easy things to manage. You know, if, you know, I don't mean to, you know, denigrate finance or any other, you know, of these, any other departments, but some of those, you know, functions can be pretty compartmentalized, and you can stay in your office and you just crank it out and don't let problems pop up, and everything's okay. But when you're doing community development, economic development, all of those things, you are out there in the community, and you better be on your game and be straight with the community.
It's easy when you have money. When you don't have money, finances is a big thing.
Well, oh yeah, like I say, I don't mean to minimize the impact of finance. I'm just saying some of the challenges are different. I mean, you still, I mean, you know, we went to a referendum for bond financing for resurfacing the streets in New Buffalo, and there were naysayers, oh, you know, people that weren't telling the truth, but in the end, like 70% of the community, I think it was about 68, 70% voted in favor of it. So there's challenges across the board, but my position is that I'm a pure public administrator. I'm trained to do this. I've been doing this stuff for 25 years. I love to do it. I love working with people, and you know, I think I have the core attributes to manage your functions.
You had said you had done work with highway projects before, I believe. We have the M24 construction that's going to be going on in the next couple of years.
Yeah, not necessarily with state agencies. I mean, I've worked with a lot of state agencies. I know a lot of people at the state. I've worked with the federal government a lot, so intergovernmental cooperation is not an issue at all. And I've managed and funded through my departments lots of infrastructure work. So I'm very comfortable dealing with that. Like in Rio Rancho, for example, I think I told you that the engineering department, they just couldn't wrap their head around what we were doing. You know, so you know, I was asked to take on engineering. So I'm very comfortable working with engineers. One of the references I put on there is a guy that's an engineer in Rio Rancho, was in Bay City, and now he's actually in Albuquerque. So as much as they, you know, John always teases me about being a touchy-feely, you know, planner. I work well with engineers. I got a daughter that's going to be an engineer, so. And state funding, I've done a lot of work with state agencies for shared funding of projects and things like that.
How big was Rio Rancho when you got there?
Rio Rancho was 100 square miles. We had a mayor at the time that aspired to be 200 square miles. The community was on-planned, on-zoned. I think we're about approaching 60,000 people at the time. But as I said, we were building subdivisions of 900 homes at a time. I was the impact fee administrator. I negotiated all the infrastructure on behalf of the community. I actually negotiated one particular project where they were going to a completely desolate area of the community, and somebody was putting in place a plan for a community of 25,000 people. And I negotiated that deal on behalf of the city, the planning, the zoning, infrastructure, all the parameters of that project. Crazy.
And now Oxford.
Well, you know, every community has its challenges. I mean, if I can accept that as sort of a question or a nod for a comment, there were some folks that said the same thing about going to New Buffalo. Oh, what do you know, oh geez, aren't you going to be bored there? I don't think so.
And it was a question.
Yeah.
Sort of, kind of.
Yeah, so I mean, everywhere you go, there's challenges. I mean, in Detroit, one of my challenges, I negotiated the Hance Woodlands deal, okay? There's a movie that was made about it, a documentary called Land Grab. I negotiated that deal on behalf of the city. I think it was about 1,700 parcels of land, one of the largest land deals in the city's history. It was interesting, it was challenging, et cetera, et cetera. But the impact that I had on citizens by doing the right things in my leadership in New Buffalo was every bit as powerful. And, you know, your reward in this business isn't always your paycheck. You know, you go in the private sector, sometimes you can make a lot more money. Your reward is making something happen on behalf of a community and making a difference in a community and knowing that somebody's life is changed by virtue of the work that you've done.
Mr. Anderson? I'm sorry.
I apologize for not asking.
No, I got it.
Normal question.
Yeah, I got it.
You picked right up on it, so.
Mr. Anderson, your resume reflects that in 2008 through 2011, you were the Chief Development Officer in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Yes, sir.
You described that community as a fast-growing. When I lived in Fayetteville, North Carolina between 91 and 96, I found it to be highly developed at that time already. Could you please articulate to me what you mean by fast-growing community of what I would describe as just shy of an urban community at the time, and describe the fast development and your contributions to that, please?
Sure. The fastest growth I experienced was in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. But
In regards to Fayetteville, North Carolina,
yes,
please.
I'm getting there. Fayetteville, North Carolina, are you familiar with the BRAC, Base Realignment and Closure Program of the federal government? We had, one of the things that I was hired to do was to prepare the community through this Unified Development Ordinance and other capacity building measures to prepare the community for an influx of about 25,000 people to the base, to the community, expansion of operations on the base, and an influx of about 25,000 people that were from other communities where the bases were closing and they were being reassigned to Fayetteville, North Carolina. So we were on a tight time frame, and that's what I mean by fast growing. It actually, I don't know if you've been back there in a while. I think, you hear the stories of in the 60s, Vietnam, and the downtown was, just a bunch of GIs drinking and fighting and stuff. It's a really nice family community now. It's really evolved into a beautiful place. There was a really large, at the Airborne Museum, we put in a veterans park there. I was part of the design team for that. So there were just a lot of things going on. Fayetteville, it's a mixed community demographically and economically. So there were certainly some challenges along that line as well. But it was mainly the influx of 25,000 people through the Base Realignment and Closure Program that compelled us to get our act together.
Thank you.
Bob, did you have any?
No, I think I got all my questions out earlier. I like the concept that you put forth. I think the smartest day I had in my life was when I realized I didn't know everything. And it sounds like when you don't know something, you just look for the answer and try to collaborate and get things done.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
I haven't been there yet.
Tom, you'll get there. You got a couple more years.
One last question. You have had some pretty significant accomplishments, it seems like. Your resume is impressive. Your education is impressive. Knowing the parameters of this job, do you feel that you will be content, at least initially, holding the fort essentially from 1 to 3 months?
Absolutely.
While the search for a manager position continues. I foresee no grand projects that you'll have to undertake. There will be a lot of housekeeping. There's going to be a lot of collaboration necessary. And there, I perceive, will probably be employment issues. Will you be satisfied simply maintaining that capacity?
Well, I'm not hearing maintaining anything. It's really evaluating and making recommendations to this body of where to go from a capacity building standpoint, operational standpoint, the validity of how things flow through the system. I love doing that stuff. That's my favorite stuff to do. I mean, ultimately, to be honest with you, I'd like to have the opportunity to be in a consulting business, much like the gentleman at the end of the table, where I would do a lot of this kind of work, come in and do a workout in communities. It's really interesting stuff. And it doesn't have to be, there doesn't have to be a lot of zeros around that decimal mark for it to be interesting. Each challenge is challenge, I'm compelled with each challenge as it arises. Now, it might be 3 people in the room, it might be 350 people in the room. Stakes are higher with 350, and the stakes are higher when your budget's $225 million. But it's equally as compelling. And the rules of the game, following the regulations, following the law, all those things all those challenges are there. And every step of the way, it's an opportunity for personal growth and professional growth.
I'm sure you can understand that from my perspective, while this community is small and it doesn't necessarily compare with some of the other agencies that you've worked for, the stakes are exceptionally high as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
Our responsibility is the oversight of this community. There's a lot of people relying on that. Therefore, for me personally, the stakes couldn't possibly be higher right now.
That's kind of what I was trying to convey, that as you scale it up and down, it's very, very meaningful to someone, whoever's involved. And if you own a home here and you're raising your kids here, it couldn't be more compelling, I'm sure.
What was the population of New Buffalo?
New Buffalo, in the 2000 census, was 2,800 people. Most recently, we estimated to be 1,800 people, 1,800 people, and there are over 1,000 boat slips. They are 65 miles from Chicago, and part of what has taken place is a lot of wealthy people from Chicago have been buying up the community for their second homes. There's an Amtrak station for $11. You can go to Union Station from downtown, actually right from our beach. So it's a small community. That's part of, I think, the discord in the community is a lot of people that grew up there, they saw their community be bought out from underneath them over the last 16, 18 years. So it is like 2.5 square miles.
Well, we won't spend that. But anyway, question just went right out of my head. Oh, I know. Because we're a small community, small staff, people have to wear many hats. Is that something that you're comfortable doing and that you have done?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
We good?
Do you have any questions of us?
No, I hope you find a good fit, whether it's me or the other candidate. I hope you find what you really need and you're looking for. It's a very appealing community. I got here early today and drove around a little bit, and last week when I was here, I spent a little time driving around as well. It's a beautiful area, and I've driven through here many times. My children, I've been separated, divorced for quite a long time, since my kids were pretty young, and my ex-wife lives in Warren, and living in Saginaw and Bay City, there's a lot of times I just got really burned out with I-75, and I'd take 24. And I remember driving through here, just looking around going, wow, this is nice here. And today, it struck me what a balanced community it is. As small as it is, it seems like there's kind of a balanced economy here. There's a pretty good spectrum of stuff going on. The business community, the little downtown, the walking downtown, it's just, there are so many communities that would just like do anything to have that. It's a very appealing place. It's a special place, and you should give it special care. And so thank you very much for the opportunity to have the conversation.
Thank you for your time.
I'd be glad to dig my heels in and get to work as quickly as possible on behalf of the.
Robert, in the room, you have the police chief is here, and fire chief, and library, and DPW, ex-officials. I know you negotiated that land deal. Mr. Dunn is over there. He worked on the Louisiana Purchase. And feel free, if you...
Successful, very successful.
Yeah. If you, have any questions, maybe you can...
Well, how
If
about,
all else fails, you can ask CJ.
yeah. Well, if you have any questions of me, let's start with that.
Great. Hearing none.
Okay. Is that an endorsement?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your time.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Robert.
Don't hesitate if you have any follow-up questions. I'll be available.
Appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thanks. Good to see you.
Nice to meet you. Very good to meet you. We'll talk.
Okay.
I was gonna go look for munching.
I will, but don't do anything big.
Thanks a lot.
Is it Jeff?
We'll talk later.
Notice you said the cream of the crop, except for you and I.
Yeah.
There's DPW, there's CP.
There's the Louisiana. You work with Thomas?
The rest of our invested community is out in the hallway.
Hello, everybody.
Hi,
Hi.
Evan. I think I spoke a couple times to you on the phone.
Hi, how are you?
Sue, nice to meet you.
Good afternoon. Eric Nolan.
Hi.
Hi, Maureen Helmut. That was at the last interview.
Right, Tom.
I can teach. Where would you like me?
Right there,
Here?
podium?
Right at the podium.
The microphone on the podium is not working, so you're kind of talking into that other one. Just speak up.
Oh, this one?
it only records, it does not project your voice. There you go.
All right. Can you hear me? Great.
Okay, you want to just kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Evan Teach. I've been a village manager for about 13 years. Local government, 29, mostly in Illinois, but 5 years in Wisconsin. A nice little 10,000 person town, Sussex, which was west of Milwaukee by about 15 miles. Really enjoy local government, it's my passion. Love little towns and love main streets and downtowns that are vibrant.
Okay, and what special skill set would you bring to this position?
Well, I'm a generalist. I don't have any particular one great skill, but I've, in my 29 years, seen a lot, and I don't think there's much that could happen that I probably haven't seen, or one of my very dear friends in the business could help me along with. But in general, I think I could bring you a lot of leadership. I can see that you have some development coming and going on, and I also think that I can help you with things like your special events and marketing the community, as well as some things in your community development department.
Okay, and what about financial?
Sure.
We
Well,
are, we have some real challenges there, as far as
Okay.
financial, budget, simplifying the budget.
sure.
Line and so on and so forth.
In terms of budgeting and finances, I'm very good at those. I've done budgets upwards of $30 million a year. This past year, we trimmed about $600,000 from a $14 million operating budget. We've done that 2 years in a row. As you all know, I come from Illinois. Illinois is not exactly in the best state shape. They just finally passed a budget after 2 years, but the state has been cutting back on local revenues or not paying ones they were supposed to be paying, and so you always had to prioritize what you were doing. You had public safety first and foremost. You also had public safety pensions that have to be paid. They're obligations. You have bonds that have to be paid, and then you prioritize from that point down, and you make sure you have things covered for payments, that you keep your bond ratings and credit ratings. You want to make sure the community is safe. You want to make sure the water is clean and clear, drinking, et cetera, and then you can work on whether you have money left for capital and other items. But I think I can do quite a job and take a look at your budget and work directly with the council on prioritization.
Have you actually put a whole budget together? Managed it and
Yeah, over the years, I have had small staff or myself put together an entire budget. When I was with the village of Itasca, before we got a finance director, I put the whole budget together. It's hard, it's a lot of hard work, but it gets done. And hopefully there's a team effort with the board and with priorities, and that makes it a little bit easier so you're not guessing.
Why did you leave that position?
My contract was not renewed after 7 years.
Mr. Teach, a review of your resume suggests that you prefer positions in which you will maintain long tenure. You understand the nature of this position, at least initially, correct?
Yes, I do.
And could you articulate to me what you believe that to be?
This being an interim position, as you are looking for a full-time manager to come into the community and be long tenured.
Do you believe that you would be willing to give this community, in that capacity, the same effort and energies that you would give to a position in which you felt you were seeking a longer tenure in?
That's a great question, and the answer is yes. This is what I do for a living. It's my passion, it's my vocation. When I come and do something, I don't have a half speed. Things need to get done. The public needs its services, and they deserve it. And whether I'm here for a month, 3 months, or 6 months, I will give you all my effort, including night meetings and being at your special events, because that's what a village administrator does.
Mr. Teach, in this position, while there might be varying understandings, my concerns are of immediacy. And those concerns are pay the bills and pay the employees. Anything else above and beyond that, in my interpretation, is additional, and I would love to see an evaluation, and I would love to see budgetary recommendations made. However, of greatest concern are the bills and the employees. How do you view those responsibilities?
Well, I guess the business of the village is done by its employees through the direction of the village board and the leadership and management of the administrator's office. The village buys services and goods, whether it be through the, village attorney's office or gasoline for the police cars, et cetera, et cetera. All those bills have to be paid. While not completely familiar with the state of Michigan, the state of Illinois has a Prompt Payment Act. You have to pay your bills. You also have employees. You're not going to keep them very long if you stop paying them. And so most of them probably live in this area, and therefore them losing their jobs is also not good for the local economy. It's not good for the services provided in the community as well. So priorities are set, and the priorities are pay your bills, pay your employees, make sure you make your commitments, and then you prioritize down the line. So I have no problem with working with the board and with the staff, such as it is, and make those priorities a reality.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You've never lived in Michigan before, right?
I have never lived in Michigan.
That was not a setup, but
No, I've not lived in Michigan, but I have been
as
to Michigan a few
obviously
times.
Midwest.
Mhm.
If we're looking at this both short-term and long-term, would that be a consideration down the road, or is your footprint in Illinois?
I never say never. I'll be honest with you, I've never been to your town before today. I've been driving around for about 2 hours. It's a very beautiful town. People are exceedingly friendly. And I don't know how your search is going, but, if it turned out that it was the right thing for me to do, I could see myself staying.
Mr. Teach, I have slightly differing opinions about the status of our community. While there are some individuals who express concern and fear, I look at this as an opportunity personally. We're going through transition. I don't necessarily believe we are of dire consequences. What I believe is that we're looking for a general, essentially. We need a leader. And I believe we need a leader to, in some ways, kind of straighten the ship and ensure that there's stability and ensure that our financial status is secure. I think there's been a little bit of uncertainty as to whether that has been the case, and I believe there's been a little bit of lack of transparency, and as a result, some confounding budgetary practices. Considering the size of our community and the staff that you would initially be working with, would you foresee any complications in assembling or reviewing the budget, making recommendations, and implementing new policies?
None. Actually, that's my job. I would imagine when I first come in and, I'll say this a lot of times, sitting down with the board. I mean, this is your village and I'd be your leader. Working together. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you hope. Tell me what you want for your community. And then I will put together some plans for that to share with you. Whether that's the budget document and where I see certain things again, after 29 years, you see certain things, but sometimes it takes a little bit of time to actually touch them and see them for yourself. You could see things on paper, but seeing them in reality is a little bit different. I could tell you, for instance, the community I'm working part-time in, I just saw some bills for about $20,000, and that seems like a lot. My question is, what's this $20,000? And it wasn't even my purview, but I asked what's going on. They were buying a tracking of the Public Works vehicles. And my question is, okay, that's interesting, you're spending that kind of money. What are you trying to achieve? Do you have problems with your employees going places they're not supposed to be going? Do you have a problem with fuel? Do you have a problem with, or are you trying to find out whether you need that many vehicles? And I bet you could find a much less expensive way to find that out than $26,000. But I look at those things. It's very important. It's the public's money, and you want to make sure it's being used right and prioritized.
What's your experience regarding code enforcement or building codes and building department?
I started my career in the building department for the city of Evanston. Actually, before that, I was working in the building department for the city of Highland Park, Illinois. I'm familiar with code enforcement. It is one of the hardest jobs in municipal life, aside from police. Nobody really wants to be told what they can and can't do on their property, but someone at the village has to enforce those standards. I'm very familiar with the process, maybe not the Michigan process, depending upon, whether the municipality has ultimate authority or it goes to a circuit court or a local court, but whatever that process is, I'm familiar with why it needs to occur, the touch that needs to occur with the property owners or business owners, and the communication that has to occur. And usually, every place I've ever worked, we don't want enemies. We really only want compliance. And we are willing to work and bend over backwards and work with people until they prove they don't want to do what the community wants them to do. In that case, you have to take it to the final levels.
Well said.
It's not easy, and like I said, I've driven through your community. I've seen the beautiful lawns. I've seen people take care of their property. I've seen people be courteous to people crossing the street. And then you have somebody who wants to, I don't know, run a garage sale every day out of their front lawn, or not cut their grass and make it, and you lose civic pride. And if someone can do that and nothing happens to them, then is it okay for everybody not to cut their lawn? Is it okay for people to throw trash near a trash can, but not in it? I would say no, and if the village believes in that, then that's the standard, and you have to enforce it. Just like speeding. Does anybody get to set the speed limit? Chief, do they get to set their speed limit, or do they have to follow the rules?
Only the chief can change it.
Pardon?
Only the chief can change it.
Well, if there's a posted sign, that's the limit. They don't get to change it themselves.
We're a small community with a very small staff, and you're going to be expected to wear many hats. Is that a problem for you?
As long as I get to cover my head. No, and actually, it's quite warm in here, but
It is.
no. In fact, I enjoy busy days. As long as there's, 10 minutes to breathe and maybe grab a bite to eat, it's pretty cool. Maybe 20 minutes.
Go ahead.
Mr. Teach, our situation as it is right now, while I'm sure everybody would prefer to have the candidate that they envision in place immediately, sometimes finding the proper candidate isn't immediate and can take an extended period of time. Are you flexible in your employment options in order to accommodate the needs of the village while we go through the appropriate search, regardless of what conclusion that leads to.
Sure.
Specifically, I would prefer to avoid a situation in which the candidate of choice fills in, and then we have to go through this process again if we haven't selected the individual we're looking for. Do you have flexibility?
I do. I do have some. I'm not currently in a interview process. I have one coming up in about 3 weeks. But those, for whatever reason in Illinois, they take, and other places, this process, as you guys have been through, takes a little bit of time. It is very hard to get people together, especially in the summer. You know, you want your entire board there, and if one's not there, do you do the process? Do you not? Do you push it back a week? Then you lose another. So I have flexibility.
That position you were interviewing for in 3 weeks, if, per se, you were to be offered the opportunity here, would we find ourselves in a situation where you conceivably might take that other position and vacate this spot, leaving us to undergo this procedure again?
One of the things that I would do is, first of all, it's a preliminary with the recruiter, so the next interview would probably be a minimum of 2 to 3 weeks after that. A lot of, and I've only been in this situation one other time, when I was employed in Wisconsin and coming to Illinois, the town in Illinois asked me to start nearly immediately, and I said, no, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that.
Are you
gonna
involved
give you
in any
4
other
weeks.
processes right now?
No.
Thank you.
Evan, are there any events in your professional life that may reflect negatively upon your performance, or which would be awkward or embarrassing if it was disclosed or we Googled it or it was in the media?
Well, I think if you Googled my name, you'd probably be very bored by the time you got through there. But no, I left my last position. My last evaluation with the village was quite good. The mayor was up for his 3rd term, and he decided he wanted to do a change of direction. We had a little bit of difference in philosophy with how the timing would occur on some changes. He wanted them sooner, and I didn't. I should have compromised more, but I didn't, and it rankled him a bit, and so he wanted to move on to a different direction. So I said, okay. We didn't fight. We didn't yell at each other. We just did a severance agreement quite quietly. No press coverage. Still no article. So I left May 1st. So.
I would imagine in your line of work, that's probably a pretty common occurrence.
Unfortunately, yes, but I was told early on, managers are hired to be let go. Things in communities change, mayors and boards change, priorities change, and sometimes managers get changed.
Sure.
And you just get, I don't know if you ever get used to it, but you have to accept it, and it's a big country. So if you're willing to move and do some other things, you just accept it. But you always have a reverence for the communities you served. I have great friends everywhere I've been when I was moving up the ranks, and my community that I just left just had a terrible hail storm with a wind event and lost several trees and broken windows, and I called and asked how everybody was, because they're still your people, they're still your friends, and they're hurting. They were out of power for 3 days.
I noticed on your application that you directed the study of the sewer and water rates.
Yes, Mayor. It's painful, so yes, yeah. I'll give you a little background. So the village that I was working with when I first got there was about 60% done building a $35 million water treatment plant upgrade, basically a new plant in a new location. was trying to learn the village and kept asking things like, okay,
How big was that again?
35 million, about 3.2 million gallon capacity a day. It was a town of
I apologize.
9,000 people, but a daytime population of 25,000. We had a very large corporate center and some industrial, but the plant was built large enough to take on the unincorporated area next to us that had about 500 homes. I kept asking people, why is the sewer fund, water and sewer fund losing money? And I wasn't getting very good answers. So I'm looking through the finances, and I'm like, it keeps talking about a water and sewer rate study. Somebody get me a copy of this study. And within 5 minutes, I could tell what the problem was. They had projected that they were going to get 500 new homes, and all of the business park was going to be on the system 2 years prior to my arrival, none of which had occurred yet. So they were hemorrhaging cash. And so we had to go back through the entire plan. What were the assumptions? What do we need? How do we cover our bills? What's our staffing? What's our current costs? What's our future costs? And then back that into a rate that was palatable to be able to get through the next several years. So I've done that. We also then had to go out to the residents and tell them that their water and sewer rates were going to rise. Also coinciding with the city of Chicago, which is where we got our water from, through a water consortium going up 25% over the next 5 years. So water rates were really skyrocketing. And so we tried to use a lot, we had some cash on hand, so we used some of that cash on hand to buffer it as it rose, and then we held off on some capital, and then as we started to put a little bit of money back into the bank, we used that money to catch up on some capital and stabilize the rates.
We've got a big road project coming up in the 2019. Have you ever worked with anything like that, or does any part of that, would any of that frighten you, the pre-work? That we're starting to go through?
No,
right now?
we had a conversation a couple weeks ago. I've been involved in two large projects. One, I was involved with the state highway widening from 2 lanes to 4 lanes and doing some work preliminarily on whether, sidewalks, trees, streetscape stuff, driveway access, street access. They were closing a couple streets because they were against left turns. And so they wanted a couple streets closed, which required some movement around. So that was one project. And then the one that I was working on until the day I left the village of Itasca was a tollway project. The Illinois Toll Authority was building I-390 from O'Hare to Elgin, which went right through my community, about a mile's worth of it. It was elevated, so it was going to go right through between a residential neighborhood and our Class A office park, and we wanted better landscaping, we wanted better aesthetics, we wanted the state to not decimate our community. So we not only had to work with the state Tollway Authority, the State Department of Transportation, the County Department of Transportation, but we also had to work with the EPA and others because of streams. I'm familiar with large road projects. Sorry to be long-winded.
No, that's okay.
Do you believe that you might be handicapped in your success by not being familiar with the local, county, and state agencies and contacts by any chance?
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit of a disadvantage, but I've never had a problem working with people. I've never had a problem learning things quickly and adapting. And I found that once you get to know people and get to know a little bit of the lay of the land, and maybe even some of the local managers and assistant managers, if there are some, and transportation people, you just pick it up and you find where your advantages are One of the things we found out from like the Illinois Tollway Authority, we'd never worked with them. They weren't in our area up until then, is the staff is supposed to say no. You ask them for something, they say no. Oh, okay. That's odd. You do it in another community. Oh, so if you write a letter from the mayor to the county board or to whatever, then they say they'll look at it, and about 2 weeks later you get a yes. Okay. So you learn how it plays, and then you play it how they play it. And you make sure that the staff and you are always working well together, and you find win-win. Yeah, it's tough at first, but there's always a system.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have any questions of us?
Oh,
Go ahead.
I have one last question. Could you describe to me your level of attention to detail?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a 10, but I'm pretty much an 8.5. I'd like to get better at it. You get pulled in a lot of directions. But certainly on the top priorities, attention's way up there, probably a 9. You just get pulled in a lot of directions, especially probably in a small community. You're going to wear a lot of hats. And today's priority may not be tomorrow's. You put one down, pick one up.
Very true.
If we were to call a coworker or acquaintance or a friend of yours and ask them for 3 words to describe you, what would they say?
Professional? And you're putting me on the spot. What, you know, you're
That's our
asking
job.
what they would, you know,
That's
would
what we're
say
here
about
for.
me.
Brag about yourself.
Yeah, we have the guy on the line right now.
Yeah, well, I probably owe him a couple of dollars and a 3-foot putt. Professional, easy to get along with, and passionate,
Good.
and a klutz because I dropped my pen underneath here. It's okay. I need you to take notes, so.
I just wrote all 3 hours.
Oh, yeah?
All right.
Are we good?
Yeah, and what would be the 3, I hesitate to say worse things, but what would be a criticism? 3 criticisms.
You know, you're supposed to do these so that they're somehow a positive, but, you know, sometimes
Not necessarily.
Let's keep it real.
It's like
Yeah.
honesty.
Not here.
Let's just keep it real.
I want to achieve things, and sometimes my speed can be faster than what other people are, and I can't put that into, you know, one word, but
Right.
I sometimes push a little because I see where we want to go, and I'm not as patient as I'd like to be.
I like it.
I'm unintentionally funny.
Funny according to others or according to yourself?
According to others, I sometimes have an interesting view of things, and it comes out in humor. That's pretty much me, and I'm a mediocre golfer at best. At best. I noticed all your golf courses, it's going to be,
Yeah,
Yeah. How long have you lived in Illinois?
let's see, off and on 45 years.
We have real college football teams here.
oh, jeez.
Yes, you do.
But we're in need of an attorney.
I think you and I discussed football.
We did, and over the last several days, I still haven't got a great comeback for the University of Illinois.
Keep working on
I
that,
really
right?
can't, they're terrible.
Working on that.
They're horrible.
And I don't have one for our attorney either. So we're on the same page.
You know-
Some people say I'm funny once in a while, too, so.
I
Intentionally.
appreciate that. I do like college football, but I can't say that,
Well, you'll like it more here.
I have a very close friend who's M Go Blue, and I have another one who's Michigan State, and when they get together, they're just annoying.
That about sums that up.
Do you have any questions of us?
So, you know, what do you feel the manager's role is in your priorities?
Right, today, somebody to right the ship. Steady the course.
Now, let me take a whack at that.
Go ahead.
This village council has a legal pressure because under the village charter, we have an obligation to maintain an appropriate administration function of the village. We're sitting here currently without a village manager and without a village clerk. The priority of the village right now, and you can sense by the question, is to get a person in there to run the fundamentals of the village business. We don't need someone right away to take on a pet project. We don't need someone right away to think of pet projects. I think what Eric Dolan was trying to get at is that we need someone under our charter obligations to manage the business of the village, the core functions of the village. And I think that's what we're looking for. Is that well said, Council?
It was.
Yes, sir.
Even Mr.
Better than I
Janice?
did, but means the same thing.
Yeah, no, that's what and I think that's coming across in the questions.
We're very fortunate to find our interim village
Yeah.
manager currently who will be leaving us. We were very, very fortunate to find that person, and we're looking for a similar type person that could possibly even move in a full-time if it's a good fit.
Does he have a phone number, and does he, will he answer?
Right.
I believe he probably does.
Ah, there it is, there it is.
What is your start availability if you were,
Probably, well, it depends, being able to find someplace to live for the days of the week and whatever's going on, but week, 10 days.
okay.
I never based it. I got a spare bedroom.
Yes, I've been cleaning out my guest room.
But
I would find a hotel if I was.
No one wants to stay with me.
You know, so, but, week, 10 days, something in that range.
No, that's great. Thank you for being honest about that. Appreciate it.
I'd like to answer your question, though, but what I would like to look for is administrative oversight, vision, and someone to provide a steady hand. We are very fortunate to have an amazing community. The downside of that is we do have varying philosophical opinions on this council, and that's just being forthright with you. We're looking for someone who is steady, someone who understands personalities and perspectives and can meld those sometimes differing opinions into one vision for the community that benefits everybody.
Perfect.
Well said.
In the room, you have police, fire, library, DPW, ex-officials, township supervisor. Feel free to
who all these people were.
Feel free to ask.
All of our
them.
concerned citizens are in the hallway.
those are also very strong points of the community as well.
Well,
And no one can hear me 'cause I don't have the mic, so that's good.
I think the other question I would have is, how do you feel your staff is doing in terms, pardon?
I don't
Well,
I don't
there-
necessarily know that we are at liberty to discuss those type of personal matters right now.
But other than that, I know you need help and you need it quickly. I can tell you I have 29 years of local government experience. I started out as the permit clerk in a community and worked my way up to assistant to the manager and then manager. So there's nothing I haven't touched
Excellent.
Excuse me?
Great.
legally.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
I'll just walk back through the gauntlet. What'd you do?
There's no gauntlet. I had my name in place.
I kicked it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Great. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Is my car being towed?
Yeah, I'm surprised we don't have at least a Wolverine on the back right now.
Here.
No, I did, I'm good.
Yeah, click on that.
Which one?
That's all I need you to do is.
Oh, the candidate? You think so? You thought so? Madam President, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I would move to authorize the village manager, interim status, and the city attorney to begin negotiations with the interim manager candidate, Evan Teak, at the first available opportunity. The end.
Okay. I will support that.
If I may make a suggestion,
Yes.
that the negotiation be the village attorney and the village president with consultation of the interim village manager, if that is acceptable.
And I would amend that motion as articulated.
Thank you.
Where are we at?
And I will
Pages.
amend my second.
Oh, yeah. What are we doing?
I got it.
Nominated Evan Teach.
Oh, great.
And for
Great.
you and I to negotiate with.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was just in the hall telling him he got nominated.
okay.
No, I was,
Okay, we have a motion by Dolan, supported by Basarda. James, can you do a roll call, please?
yes, please. Dolan,
Yes.
Helmuth,
Yes?
Kennis,
No.
Council President.
Yes.
The motion passes 3-1.
Would we like to bring the candidate back in and inform him of that?
you know, let me see if I can. I'm not real fast, but
I'm leaving, so
I'm fast.
It's nice that he can show.
Oh, sorry.
Dave, did you get the envelope that I laid on your steps?
Yes. And I have reviewed all of it.
You what?
I have reviewed all of it.
We just made a motion and took a vote to begin.
Drew, no.
I have no idea what Sue's doing.
Yeah.
Negotiations with him.
Okay. Did Robert appear?
Yes.
Okay. He's presently not in,
No.
present, okay.
Yes.
All right.
We just need 5.
It's fine, let's bring it back to the session.
Oh, this is mine?
Yep.
Okay, is there a modification?
I don't know. There's,
Okay.
Okay.
Because I got it back
well,
in.
this might have been added.
Oh, okay, hold on.
Doesn't look like it.
Want to adjourn for a short recess?
Yeah, we have, if we're bringing in, if you were to
Come back out.
come back to Carol.
Okay.
Or do you want to just take the?
No, I didn't know we were adjourned. As long as you're adjourned for the moment, I'm
No,
fine.
we're not.
want to adjourn?
I was just going to go check
Why don't we
on
take a
Bob and see if
recess?
you
Why don't we-
found it.
Just
And then
adjourn.
we
Closed session, all right. So I'll substitute this one.
All right. Okay. Let's have a motion to take a, what do you want, 10 minutes?
I'll make a motion for a 10-minute recess.
Support.
All right, that's the
Okay, we
fastest
have a
I've moved
motion
on.
by
Helmut?
Thelma, supported by Kenneth, to take a 5-minute break, 10-minute break.
Where are we at?
We're taking a
Just take
10-minute
a
break.
10-minute break. See.
We would want a motion to go back into,
Okay, I need a motion to go back into closed session.
Make a motion. to
Open
go
I'll
back
make a
into
motion.
Open
Open
session.
sorry.
You beat
We
me.
have a motion by Hannah, supported by Dolan, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All same sign. Okay, consideration of a proposed agreement with WHR. Did we already take care of that?
That has been addressed.
That's been addressed. We're on item 9C.
All right, C,
9C.
consideration of an update on the clerk treasurer search. Bob?
Council will be going into closed session on the clerk treasurer contract and charter issues. So we don't have to deal with item C.
Can we move that to closed session?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think closed session is on your agenda.
Yeah.
It is. Update on the DDA executive director search. We interviewed 2 candidates. The DDA voted to offer it to one of the candidates, and I have talked to him. So now the negotiations begin.
And
That's all I've got.
you contacted me, and I've
did.
developed a generic contract format, and we're going to begin letting him propose his terms.
So the DDA expressed a preference?
Yes.
Okay.
His name is Glenn Pape.
What was the last name?
Pape, P-A-P.
Thank you.
Evan?
Glenn.
Glenn? It
With
says,
2 N's.
oh,
That's DDA.
DDA. DDA executive. Okay, gotcha. I thought DDA was expressing an opinion on manager. Okay,
No.
gotcha.
Okay, 10, new business. A, consideration of purchase of MXU, is down here? Yeah. Remote water readers.
Good evening, Council. Don Brantley, Public Works Supervisor. For you tonight, requesting purchase of 155 MXU transmitter readers for our water meter reading system at the cost of $135 apiece for a grand total of $20,925. This will almost complete the east side of M24, and they will all be remote reads. Some of East Street will not be done, and I think Center Street will not be done with this program, but it'll allow us to finish off East and West Burdick Streets and North and South Washington and back into the Southeast District, Broadway, Pearl, Stanton. So that is our request tonight for the purchase of 155 MXUs.
I was curious. Go
Is that
ahead.
in the budget, Don?
It is, in the budget under capital improvements, we have $25,000 that we did budget, so we are coming in under budget.
Great.
Question. Do you see a long-term savings and amortization of these savings in manpower and ability to do other things that we're going to have to do, especially within 24? Correct?
Oh, most definitely. Before the MXU's readers, we were walking to every address. Oxford Lake subdivision, for example, take a guy to walk that whole subdivision an entire day. We can read that subdivision in an hour. So yes, to answer your question, this is a program we started 3 or 4 years ago, and we've just been budgeting small amounts of money to continue the program. And
It was a loaded question. I knew the answer.
If we have no additional
I was trying to
questions,
make you look good.
forgive me. If we have no additional questions, I move to approve the purchase of 155 MXU remote readers at the purchase price of $135 each from Aetna Supply for the purchase price not to exceed $20,925.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Dolan, supported by Hama. James, you want to do a roll call, please?
Dolan.
Yes.
Helmuth.
Yes.
Kennis.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you, Don. Okay, consideration of a request to participate in the Oakland County Tactical Training Consortium. Mike?
Afternoon, Acting Chief Mike Sold with Oxford Police Department. I had requested at the last meeting for the agency to become a party in the OCTAC program. which is a program basically to help the agency network with other agencies regarding training, tactical response. This agency, it will cost this agency $250 a year, and there is no obligation. We can exit out of the program at any time. But again, we're only one of a few agencies that is actually not with that program as of today. So I'm just asking for permission to move forward with that program.
Chief, I thought we approved this at the last meeting.
I think it was brought up at the end, and then I gave everybody packets to read over, so I don't think they had the information that was needed for that.
It was not a formal agenda item at the last
That's
meeting.
just under the chief's report.
Chief, a couple quick questions.
Yeah.
The participant from your agency, do you anticipate that being one of the full-time officers?
Yes, actually, it's going to be Sergeant Ashcroft that's going to be involved in that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to speak in regards to this program, my agency has 2 individuals that participate in the training. One of them is also in the administration of OPTAC. And I concur with the chief in this matter. I think it provides an invaluable resource to our community. It involves the pre-placement of emergency response equipment across Oakland County in the event of a situation which we hope never happens. And, you know, you're talking about a nominal cost, and even if it was more, the resource is invaluable. And I would concur it's needed.
Communicating, working with professionals.
Absolutely. So with that said, if we have no additional questions, I would move to approve the Village Police Department's participation in the OPTAC program with the expenditure for the annual fee of $250 and the contract services to be reviewed by the police chief, the interim village manager, and/or the village attorney, whichever is most appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a motion by Dolan, supported by Kennis. James, want to do roll call, please?
Thank you. Dolan.
Yes.
Helmuth.
Yes.
Kennis.
Yes, sir.
Bailey.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes. Next.
Thank you, everyone.
Consideration.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.
Sorry you had to stay in the meeting all that time. $250.
Consideration of Oxford Edison Youth Assistance annual sponsorship request.
I have that.
Okay.
This appears to be an annual request that we receive from Oxford Addison Youth Assistance. As noted in the cover memo from Mr. Benson, in the past we have contributed in ranges of different amounts. They're requesting $2,500 for the 2017-2018 year. We have identified the general ledger or account number in the budget where this expense has been assigned in the past, and do believe that the funding is available if council chooses to provide it this year.
As an update to that information, I made the opportunity to reach out to the Oxford Addison Youth Assistance and just propose to them that they send a representative today to explain some of the valuable services that they provide to the community. Due to the early nature of our meeting today, they were unable to, but the representative Judy and/or possibly Melissa have reached out requesting a future meeting date so they can create some face time for the village and articulate what those funds go to. As council may or may not recall, we had reduced the monetary amount while going through the budget last year. If you remember, we eliminated the monetary funds that provided for the camp for youth assistance, and that is how we've gotten down to the $2,500. So I would make a recommendation and a motion to the council that the Village of Oxford contribute the $2,500 as requested to the Oxford Addison Youth Assistance annual sponsorship for the 2017 and 2018 year in question.
I'll support that.
Okay. We have a motion by Dolan, supported by Helmut. James, you want to do roll call?
Dolan.
Yes.
Helmuth.
Yep.
Kennis.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes. Okay, D, consideration of continuance for the Smart Municipal Credit with NODA.
I have that also. As noted by the cover memo provided by Mr. Benson, this is an annual request received from SMART. This is a standard request that they would provide to communities to transfer the credits that they provide to the local transportation agency in your area. The credits and the funding can only be used for services such as North Oakland Transportation Authority provides for this community.
What's council's pleasure?
Do we have a recommendation?
There would be a recommendation that you do continue to pass the SMART credits along to your local North Oakland Transportation Authority.
Legally, they can't go anywhere else.
I would make a motion, if we have no additional questions, to concur with the recommendation from the interim village manager to pass along the SMART transportation credits to the North Oakland Transportation Authority as recommended.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Dolan, supported by Helmut. James, want to do a roll call?
Dolan.
Yes.
Helmuth.
Yes.
Kennis.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes. And the next, CRWC, Stormwater Education. Contract, James?
Thank you. Yes, our renewal, and this is a notice and action, council may take action if it wishes, but we did sign a 3-year agreement with the stormwater education folks at the Clinton River Watershed. We have an obligation, an ongoing obligation, to have certain education material as a result of having stormwater control system in our community. The Clinton River Watershed Commission provides the education requirement to the community that we are required to do by the state for us. The the contract agreement that we are under with them is an annual amount of $600. We've identified the budget item where that is assigned. No action is needed at this time. It is just a report for you to consider, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to receive them.
In reading through that packet, it suggests that educational presentations are put on by that organization. Do we know, as a council, prior to my involvement, or from Bob's recollection, if we have received any of the services as a result of that? With the 3-year annual obligation, $600 a year, it might behoove the community and the village to request some of those presentations so we have a greater understanding of the involvement.
I don't have any history of that. James, do you?
I don't. I know a number of their educational materials that they mail or send out or have in forums are often county-wide, and each community is paying a prorated share, in our case $600 for that. But I am certain they would be interested in if Oxford would like a more localized presence or presentation, we can certainly reach out to them.
Don, you're not aware of anything, are you? I'm not aware of anything, Eric, to answer your question.
I've never seen any presentations, but I thought, didn't we used to have
Pamphlets.
folders, pamphlets and stuff like that? And-
There was a trifold pamphlet about this that was here years ago.
Right, and I think in the past, they've had some kind of a display up for a certain
Yeah.
period of time.
Maybe we should call.
But I haven't seen it.
We will communicate
recently.
with them.
We'll call.
It appears that as provision of the contract, the CRWC provides public presentations. So as a result of that, since we are participating, I would like to see the village get some return on our dollar and request a public presentation and have it added to
Fair enough.
a future agenda.
Fair enough.
Perfect.
Would that require a motion, or?
I don't think so.
Do we need a motion?
I have received the message. We'll note it in the minutes and we'll proceed.
Thank you very much.
That was a good motion.
We didn't have any items removed. Public comment? Managers report?
Thank you. I have 2 items in my manager's report. The first is to, well, actually 3. The first is to say thank you very much for the opportunity to serve Oxford. I've learned a lot about the community, and I really appreciate the opportunity to do what I could in a short time. I'm very encouraged by the motion that was approved this evening, that you are going to retain services from another professional manager as your next interim manager. My final day as an interim manager will be July 29th, 2017, in that title and position. I would request that Village Council take action to recognize that date at the conclusion of my report. The second item that I have is that I will certainly be available after that date. That is the last date that my contract provides for retainer services. The contract does allow for additional services to be provided at the request of the designated individual, which in this case is the council president. I will certainly look forward to helping in any way that I can with the transition to the new interim and/or continuing to assist with other priorities that we were able to identify. In whatever capacity the village chooses to allow me to assist. I believe that concludes my report.
So the council would need a motion to acknowledge the termination date of the interim village manager, James Vitrino, effective July 29, 2017.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the ending of Mr. Vitrino's consulting contract, July 29th, 2017, and I would like to thank him for everything that he's done during the interim.
I'll support that. Now, for clarifications, your thanks is part of the memo, part of the
Well, it doesn't have to be.
motion. I would hope that, I would like to include the thanks as a formal part of the motion.
We are technically, we're ending his personal role,
Yes.
James Vitrino, as the title of village manager. We're not terminating necessarily the contract.
I see.
And I apologize for that confusion
The
because,
contract may still remain.
because the
open
contract
as-
has hourly provisions thereafter between the village president and his firm.
Yeah.
What we're doing is we're relieving him of the title of our interim village manager effective July 29th.
Do I need to amend that motion?
That would be helpful, I think.
I would like to amend that motion, that Mr. Vitrino will no longer be village manager effective July 29th, 2017. He may be available for further services through his consulting company and predicated on our needs and his availability.
Okay, so it's still Tom and Dave. Just so you know, he is continuing to work on a 3- and 5-year budget plan.
Yes.
He is also, we're setting up meetings with property owners for this MDOT thing, and he's been involved with contacting them. If these meetings happen before we get a new interim manager in here, he will need to be involved with those. So I'm just telling you the projects that I foresee. And anything else that comes up prior to this person coming in. And also, he's been involved in gathering up the information and trying to find the money for the matching part of the grant. And as we proceed, because we want to apply for that grant in August, there's things that come up before we get a new interim in here. I'll be asking him to do that. That's all I can think of right now.
No, there may be some others, but that's exactly why we don't want to terminate the contract. We're just terminating his role as the interim, as an individual.
Yeah. Is there any reason why we shouldn't include the thanks for your service thus far in
No
the
reason,
motion?
no, that's perfect.
I would like to second it with that addition. Thanking Mr. Vitrino.
if I have to amend my motion, that's fine, but
Yeah.
yes,
I think you already did.
Yeah, thanking him for his service thus far.
Yeah. So we have a motion by Kennis, supported by Bailey. James, you want to do a roll call, please?
Dolan.
Yes.
Helmut.
Yes.
Kennis.
yes.
Bailey.
Thanks, and yes.
Council President.
Yes, with regrets. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please, Chief. Report. Anything?
I do not know this time.
Clerk's report. Council comments before we go into closed session.
None for me.
Nope.
Dave?
Well, I apologize for my shift extending beyond what I thought. It was supposed to end at 5, and I continued on. I had to do tasks, finish up tasks. But I'm here now.
Eric?
I again would like to express my appreciation for the professional services provided by Vitrino Consulting, specifically James Vitrino. I think it should be acknowledged by this council that the specific candidates this council has chosen to advance at least to the negotiation stage, our potential clerk, our potential interim manager, and the services of Drew himself have been invaluable. In my opinion, almost against insurmountable odds and likelihood of success. Mr. Vitrino has done the impossible. I appreciate his consulting services, and I continue to appreciate the possibility of this village consulting with him on future projects now and in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
I'm just going to say again, I'll echo what Eric said, and I just want to acknowledge some of the, I'm not going to list them, but some of the messes that he has bailed us out from. And I thank you,
Thank you.
really. I really appreciate you, James. Okay. Want to take a motion?
I'll make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to 15.268H, request from the village attorney regarding the attorney's opinion letter.
And the interim village manager will be present during
The
closed
village,
session.
the still acting current village, interim village manager, a full council, and Attorney Davis will be present.
I would like
Support.
to second at what, 2 minutes before 6? Is that what it is?
5:55 according to my.
5:55.
Okay, we have a motion by Hummus, supported by Bailey. James, you want to do a roll call?
Dolan.
Yes.
Helmut.
Yes.
Kennis.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes.
We should see him in a three-legged race.
Okay.
Okay.
We're now in open session, council.
I'll make a motion to authorize the village council president to execute a contract with Leanne O'Connor as village clerk contingent that the modifications are accepted.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Hummus, supported by Dolan. James, you want to do a roll call, please?
Dolan.
Yes.
Helmut.
Yes.
Kennis.
Yes, sir.
Bailey.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes. Did you get that, Connie?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn at 6:52.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Hummus, supported by Dolan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.